My dear Wormwood, I wonder you should ask me whether it is essential to keep the patient in ignorance of your own existence. That question, at least for the present phase of the struggle, has been answered for us by the High Command. Our policy, for the moment, is to conceal ourselves. Of course, it has not always been so. We are really faced with a cruel dilemma. When the humans disbelieve in our existence, we lose all the pleasing results after act terrorism, and we make no magicians. On the other hand, when they believe in us, we cannot make them materialists and skeptics.
That was the beginning of one of many letters written to Wormwood in the Screwtape Letters, C.S. Lewis's sixth book, published in 1942. Let's take a look at C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis was born on November 28, 1898, into a Christian household, though he declared himself an atheist at a young age. He eventually returned to Christianity in adulthood, having been influenced by his close friend, J.R.R. Tolkien, and the book The Everlasting Man. It said he resisted conversion, quote, kicking, struggling, resentful, and darting his eyes in every direction for a chance to escape. He worked at Oxford for nearly 30 years before he was made the newly founded chair of medieval and Renaissance literature at Cambridge University. He published his first Christian novel at the age of 35 in 1933, titled The Pilgrim's Progress. C.S. Lewis went on to publish nearly 30 novels after, all of which clearly have a heavy Christian influence. C.S. Lewis was very serious about his faith, and he embedded it into his fiction, often making it the prime theme of many of his books. This includes the Screwtape Letters. The Screwtape Letters is a fictional epistolary, which essentially means a novel written in the form of letters. In particular, this novel is made up of a series of letters from a demon Screwtape to his nephew Wormwood. Each letter begins with Dear Wormwood and ends with Your affectionate uncle Screwtape. It falls into the genre of satire. It exemplifies traits of satire because it, 1, exaggerates the depictions of devils, tempters, and other themes of faulty religion for the purpose of showing that it is foolish or wicked and worthy of ridicule or rebuke. 2, it has an overall sarcastic or mocking tone. 3, it uses the technique of artistic repetition, especially repetition, for the sake of emphasis and mockery. There are really only a main 3 characters total in the Screwtape Letters: Screwtape, Wormwood, and Wormwood's unnamed patient. We as readers learn the most about Screwtape. Screwtape is shown to be, at his very core, evil. He worships the devil, literally. He's very talented at deceit, tempting quote-unquote patients, perverting the truth, lying, etc. He's cruel, even to his nephew, threatening him in his life on many occasions, despite ending his letters with affectionate uncle. Screwtape appears to understand very well the nature of human minds and human weakness, although nothing about human love. He also has a way with words and a fondness for sarcasm. Position. Screwtape is our narrator and the only perspective we see throughout the entire work, making him a very important and central character to the story. Screwtape is a senior tempter and serves as the undersecretary of his department. He seems to have a lot of experience and knowledge on tempting humans, and he's a mentor to his nephew, a brand new tempter working on what we assume to be one of his first patients. Beliefs. Screwtape, though being a demon, believes God and heaven and Jesus to all be very real. Just like the Bible says in James 2:19, even the demons believe and shudder. He, however, follows the devil. His values include the devil and himself. He doesn't care about his nephew, rather how his nephew's actions reflect back on him. He revels in human pain and suffering and wishes for nothing more than to draw humans out of God's love into hell with him. Topics. The Screwtape Letters contain many topics, including temptation, God, faith, religion, and perversion. Themes. The themes in this book are very strongly rooted in the Word. Lewis repeatedly uses logic and reason to prove Christianity true by proving the worldview of the enemy to be nonsense and false. Readers can see through the eyes of the demon and how much the demons distort and pervert the truth to their victims' minds. Even the demons themselves know their worldview is false. Everything they do is a trick. Screwtape tells Wormwood that it is his job to fuddle the patient, not teach him. Wormwood wouldn't need to trick his victim if the worldview was truthful in any way. Screwtape even acknowledges that all they can do is try to twist God's creation into evil, as they cannot produce anything themselves. The attributes of satire and irony come into play, specifically incongruity or inconsistency. The many self-contradictions Screwtape makes show that evil cannot be logically promoted. As readers dive deeper into those Screwtape Letters, it's clear that his logic is very skewed. At one point, he denies the existence of love and says that there is no overarching morality, but only my good versus yours, an individual conquest. unjust. At the end, he contradicts this by saying that God created morality and that it is rooted in love, and that the devil's job is covering this up for the humans. He does the same thing in his discussion of God's love for humanity. All this illogic and contradiction shows that Screwtape's worldview is flawed, proving that evil is simply an undoing of good and not a philosophy in its own right. Alright, quick recap. Today we talked about, firstly, C.S. Lewis, a groundbreaking Christian author who has written a ton of amazing books. Second, of course, we dived into the Screwtape Letters. The Screwtape Letters is an epistolatory novel that uses satire to show how illogical demons are and expose the flaws of religion. Of course, we talked about Screwtape himself, the cruel, deceitful, selfish senior tempter of hell who is narrating this book through his letters to his nephew, who he is mentoring and tempting. To top it off, we talked about the themes of the book, mixed in with how C.S. Lewis uses artistry to convey his themes. Now, to conclude. The Screwtape Letters cover some heavy topics, ranging from family issues to how the enemy can use any negative thought against you. In the end, however, C.S. Lewis uses artistry and logic to show that the enemy's worldview is completely nonsensical and can't hold a candle to the love of God. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. I think it's challenging to get into and can be hard for some Christians to read, but I think it's a must for every Christian to read at some point, and I highly recommend it. It challenges fleshly thoughts and shows how we as humans can be easily tricked and deceived through our own sinful desires. As mentioned before, it also teaches readers in a unique way. It shows the evil thoughts and plans of the enemy and how the enemy can prey on us from that perspective, the perspective of the enemy, in turn teaching Christians how to avoid falling into those traps. C.S. Lewis wonderfully used the genre of satire to comment on the faults of religion, temptation, social hierarchy in the church, pride of men, and much more. The book isn't just educational to Christians, but also entertaining, encouraging, and overall an interesting read.
Sometimes I am in despair. All that sustains me is the conviction that our realism, our rejection in the face of all temptations, of all silly nonsense and claptrap, must win in the end. Meanwhile, I have you to settle with. Most truly I do sign myself, your increasingly and ravenously affectionate uncle, Screwtape.
Alrighty, so that was the presentation. I hope y'all enjoyed. I'll do a little about me section real quick. Obviously, you guys all know my name is Isabel. I go by Izzy. I am the youngest of 4. I have 3 older siblings who are all out of the house and grown. I'm a sophomore in high school, and in like 2 weeks, I'll be a junior. I'll be going into my junior year. I enjoy guitar, plants, any sort of artistic thing like painting, drawing, sketching, watercolor, whatever. I like to bake. I like horseback riding. I like true crime. I love music. I think some of the questions are usually like, what's your dream travel destination? I would love to go to either Greece or France. I want to see Rome. And as what I want to do in the future, I want to go to college, hopefully, for criminology at Liberty in West Virginia, and I would like to go into some sort of detective field, particularly homicide detective.